So it's solstice today, summer solstice in the northern hemisphere and winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. Did I say that right? And I know when I grew up, there was never any mention of solstice. Then I heard it was like a pagan thing. And now it seems the conversation is all about solstice, that more and more people I know are acknowledging solstice. So I wonder if that is a reflection of back to our more natural roots. And I'm open to hearing what all comes up for you as we move the conversation around wherever spirit leads us.
Somebody say something.
You just did. Sometimes people are uncomfortable with silence.
I guess you are. So I guess it's a quiet solstice. Hmm?
Like for me, I can follow the sun from winter to summer, right? It moves about 40, 45, 90 degrees. Pretty much like if I was looking at the south at 12 o'clock in that aspect at winter solstice, it's like 9 o'clock today out this thing. And that's so every day for me, the sun is in a different place. So that helps me acknowledge that every day is a new day and every day is full of new possibilities.
Ain't it the longest day of the year? For us,
For
it is.
us, but not for
Yeah, for
Tanya.
us. Yeah. The opposite.
Or for Abdul, because he's like right in the middle.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, we knew that Tanya is all upside down, but we were not sure if it was.
Am I? Maybe you're upside down.
Remember we had that conversation, you know? So hey, who is it to say that you're down under? You might be up and we're under. We don't know. Eh?
Exactly.
Regarding to what you're down under, but anyway. So okay, so well, we're gonna go to bed late tonight. Longest day of the year. Yeah. So must be your shortest, Tanya?
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's the coldest for me.
It's so here.
No,
What's cold for you guys over there?
depends on where you are and whether you like the cold or not. For me, I do not like the cold. So it's probably about 13 degrees at the moment, which is not considered very cold, but it feels very cold.
Yeah.
It's snowing somewhere in Australia and it's too close. So.
Okay. And Mr. Abdul, where are you up to? Where do you live?
Central America.
Central America? Oh, it's not. Can you speak louder?
I don't know. Central America.
Ah, okay, Central America. Yeah, okay.
In Costa Rica.
Oh, Costa Rica. Okay. Nice weather there. Frederick is there.
Yes, I just brought him in. So in Costa Rica, they average basically 12 and a half hours almost every day of daylight. Is that correct, Abdul?
Yeah, man. So, yeah, day starts. Daylight starts about 5 a.m. So, yeah, I'm located high enough to see the light start coming in over the mountain. And so that's hit the altitude. And then, yeah, by 5:30, 6 o'clock again, it's dark. But we don't move our clock, so every day is pretty much it's the same day. We get our drama from the weather, from the climate,
And I think that's the issue of perspective, right? Like when we talk about trusting the spirit or what's going on in the world, we have 6 different perspectives and 6 different locations right now. And from the longest day of the year to the shortest day of the year to sort of right in the middle all the time. And I think as we look at that with spirit, we've got to recognize that everybody's going to have a different response and an indication of what it is they need to do at any given moment in time. And when we can trust that and work together, we create a new whole. And that to me could be, this conversation of solstice coming together. It's a new way for people to connect with nature, to say we're more than what we think we are.
It's a true story.
It's going to be one of those days today, isn't it?
Well, I think being comfortable with silence is something we all have to learn how to do. Because as Jewel was saying last week, I think, or the week before, the silence precedes all the words. The space is where the presence is.
And to your point, Jacqueline, the perspective, because again, how we are experiencing ourselves, right? And so inside our bodies, how it responds is because our bodies has each of our organs represented, they function at their best at different hours, different times during the day. And so there's always this kind of altering, right? So different things are going on within us at different times. The light of day is kind of like an activation for our sense of self, for our centering on a conscious level. However, what's going on inside of us, inside the human body, is on automatic. And so when we allow ourselves to become more aware of what's going on and allow ourselves to be guided to the way that we can take control on a conscious level of our bodies through the function of the heart. The heart is really the intelligence on the physical level. And so once we learn how to control the heart's energetic output, we can control the other organs within the body. So the conversation about solstice, really, I only hear it from people that are conscious. So the other conscious people around the world will make mention of the solstices as they appear. And so they have that word has meaning to those of us that have been in those circles, versus the other people that will speak of the spring, summer, fall, and speak of it in that way, even though these things are being introduced to our consciousness in a different way nowadays. And it's becoming more and more difficult to recognize when one is present versus, or what the meaning is of each one. You know, how they are defining themselves and redefining themselves. And because that becomes clearer and clearer, it kind of nulls the conversation about it in that way, because there is a sense of, okay, is there really a spring now? Is there really a fall now? Is there really a winter now? And in Costa Rica, winter is defined as the rainy season, which kicked off in the middle of May. So basically, we experienced rain from around that point for the next 6 months, you know, in the afternoon. Pretty much every day we're guaranteed to experience water, rain. And, you know, it could be at any measure too. But because of my awareness of us being in a different space, I can appreciate the heaviness of it when it comes, because the sun, the way the sun is hitting the earth versus the wetness of the earth receiving that and responding to it. So the vapors, right? And so the vapors that rise up, and then because of the heat, again, the pressure builds up, and then it has to release it. And so I have this practice of controlling the weather at times when I need to do something. So, you know, I might hold the rain up, you know, or, you know, pretty much it's, yeah, it's usually the rain that I have to hold up for one reason or another, to let someone come in or to help someone to go out. Because I live on a mountain, so it's kind of tricky, you know. So if it's really raining really hard, it'd be kind of hard to see your way down the hill, and vice versa, up the hill. So, you know, in order to stop that, to pause it, it's just about really being focused that, for the most part, it's the human consciousness that controls the climate on the earth, the natural climate, because we have a sunny disposition, and sometimes we have a cloudy disposition that we kind of lock into as a community. And so this kind of thing goes on when there's less people going to their place of business, like on the weekends. You can really just notice how the weather reacts to that. You know, it's a reaction to the consciousness of the people. And so ideally though, it's a lot of fun to be able to control it within yourself, you know, at the same time honoring the needs of the plants, the nature, the birds, and, you know, and the frogs and these other life forms on here that need, you know, they're in agreement to cooperate, you know, with the world's turning. But it's a good practice to not be intimidated by climate. And a lot of us don't even say account for our own sense of 98 degrees temperature. And so you have to be aware that your temperature is almost 100 degrees at any given time. And because you don't constantly put your awareness on it, you kind of cancel it out and believe that you're subject to things that are less than that. And so the way you experience cold water, cold weather is really predicated by your awareness of yourself. And so, you can do it. You can practice in the shower, what happens when you go into cold water, it's going to be cold until your heat allows you to experience it differently. And so, we have to, I think, and, it's helpful, part of being aware, being awake, always starts at home, within yourself. And then it automatically expands into your outer creations, right into the universe.
I was talking the other day on, I was putting a message out on Facebook, and I said something. The point I was trying to make is to make peace with what is, to let go of resistance, because we resist things and we cause ourselves dis-ease through our resistance. And I made mention to the weather because it was so warm out, and I was, expressing how everywhere I went, people were complaining about the heat, and I was trying to, yeah, but make peace with it, like be okay with it. It is what it is. And what I said is, you can't control the weather. And the second it came out of my mouth, I knew that was false, right? But the point of the video wasn't about that, so I let it slide and I let it go. And here it is a day later, and you're talking about the very thing I misspoke on yesterday. So that drew my attention. I've talked to or met quite a few people in my lifetime that had that ability, or that had developed that gift of being able to control the weather. And I like very much the way you said it. It feels like it's a symbiotic relationship between us and nature, between us and the environment, where our consciousness affects the environment and vice versa. And it's time that we become aware of that. If everyone was more aware that your own consciousness has an impact on the weather, on your environment, how differently would you manage yourself, right? And it's what I agree with what you said, Abdul. It all begins inwards, right? It's an internal awareness, but then that goes out and it shapes your environment, including the weather and everyone in your environment. So I think that's a good awareness to have, because I believe that very much.
I was thinking about, I was thinking about the past 5 years or so with everything that's gone on, and how here in Australia, noticing when there was unrest in people, and how the weather responded in those areas. And it was really interesting to watch. I know that may sound a little bit callous for people's experiences, and it's not, but it very much is. You could see when there was upset and anger and all of this tumultuous emotion, how the weather responded in those areas. There was storms, there was flooding, there was all of this stuff, and it was just like, can you not see the connection to it? And it's just even say, for example, here we get storms in summer. It's with storm season, and a lot of people go like, oh, it's dangerous, there's lots of hail, this could get damaged, and this. And for me, it's where we are, like I have someone who always messages me and says, oh, how are you going? Are you safe? Is everything all right? It's very stormy down there. There's many hours distance between us, and my response is always, we're always safe, we're always protected where we are. And honestly, it whatever comes goes around us. We're always sheltered. And for the storms or the whatever comes that does, come into our area, my response is always more awe than anything else. We'll have a big storm and I just stand and watch it on my patio. And I just think, wow, how amazing and awesome and powerful is this, and feel really connected to it and give thanks for it, for the feeling of it, as opposed to going, this is terrible, it's so scary, something bad could happen, I could, tree could fall, all of this negative things that people try and put onto me or say you should feel. And it's just, it's lovely to stand on the other side of that and not respond in fear or with a negative emotion. Yeah.
As a native perspective, winter solstice, it's joyful because it's we're starting to be in abundance. Easier time. On Mi'kma'ki, the territory here. It's winter is gone, the spring is past. So we're in the full abundance. The fruits are coming out, flowers, everything we can eat, pick, and gather is starting. So, but it is also just a point of reference because if I compare from here and to Ontario, okay, my friend has already has the blooming potatoes. And here we're just about that time. So it's basically just a point of reference. So it's a date, but it's one of the 4 season, which the number 4 as native is very important. The medicine wheel, the 4 colors, the 4 season. So for me, it's mostly a point of reference and maybe just a day to celebrate. For the easier time for that period. So not really a spiritual thing, but more of a easier way of living for a while. Now it's in the modern time, it's easier, but in the older time, winter, you had to go back up in the wood, and hide, from the meteor, and now you can be at the beach and enjoy it, and do some fishing, smoke your fish, for now, and before the fall arrives, when you have to start to pile up some provision for the winter. So, but it's sure nicer than snow for you. Easier time, So, but it's a good day to celebrate, for a while. That's it. It's not really a spiritual thing not for me personally. Well, all right.
I'm just listening to, how people are talking about how, we have this effect on the weather and that, and I know I've had my experiences with that, and I know it's very true. And I can't help but relate that to everyone's talking about, well, not everyone, a lot of people are talking about the climate emergency. And to me, it's a spiritual emergency. It's not a climate emergency. It's just a spiritual emergency. And like all the fixes have nothing to do with how we on a personal level are connected to everything. They don't ever talk about that. That's never part of any conversation around the climate emergency. It's how they can point out all these things and have all these charts and figures and stats and all this stuff to why everything is the way it is, and I always found that really amusing because on both sides of the equation of what causes the climate emergency, they all have their same charts. They're not the same charts, but they all have charts that prove their own equation is more correct than somebody else's equation. And and part of me, I look at that and I kind of giggle a little bit inside because it's like they're all arguing over something that won't make any difference. It won't make any difference on what we're doing until that light bulb goes off inside them and they have that realization that, like, you know, this is the climate we're talking about. You know, the climate inside us. You know, well, there'll always be a storm. There'll always be hail. There'll always be all those things, you know, and like Tanya was saying, like, you know, I watch people and they're going, "Oh my God, it's crappy out." And I'm going, "How you feeling?" You know, it's the same thing. And I just, it is like, like I don't sit there, I don't go in awe all the time. I just look, it's just weather. You know, it's just like we're human beings and we're just human beings and it's just weather. And, you know, and rarely do I feel any need to interfere with the weather around me, but I have before a couple of times. But it's like a couple of times I did it, I'll say, out of experimentation to see what it would do for me. And, you know, I haven't actually had a cause that I thought was worthy of actually changing the weather. I didn't feel anyone's immediate life was around me. And I'll just say when I did that, I didn't command it to do anything. I asked it if it could move around and still make sure it was a rainstorm. And I asked it to move around so that the water met everybody's needs equally and properly, and just allowed a little bubble space to kind of move through. And it was just so we could go put some offerings on a fire, and that was it. So and it just like happened to stop raining, and I don't even know if I did it or didn't do it or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I don't need to take credit or anything like that, but it just happened to happen when I asked. We walked outside, there was zero rain. We did the offering, we did the fire, we come back inside the house and it started pouring again. So you can call that whatever you like. I'm not taking credit for anything, but I just know I asked and it happened. And it's happened a couple of times. So, but I want to put that on the list of things that I rarely ever do, because unless I find some real important reason for that, I don't want to. To me, it's like a abuse of a gift, you know. And I learned lots about that when I was younger too, because before I really realized what was going on in my life and my spirit, I'll just say I tested the waters to find out stuff, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't of the highest integrity. I'll just say that. So, but I learned from that. I learned a lot from all that sort of stuff. And I just want to say that Frederick looks about 20 years younger. He must have shaved or did something. I don't know what he did there, but I was going to ask, where's the real Frederick? What happened?
We have a clone.
Yeah. I want what you got. Whatever.
Through ceremony, Greg, it happened to us too that the weather just flipped for the time the ceremony and flipped back at the right after the ceremony. You know, so it's
Yeah.
I don't think it's a hazard. Well, I do not believe in hazard anyway. So
Yeah.
and what about climate? The climate emergency. What about Mother Earth cleaning herself, cleansing? I think in English. I
Yeah.
think it's part of it, you know.
Yeah.
When people abuse too much of Mother Earth, she will make sure that people move away for a while, you know, or change spot. You know, they abuse one sector of Mother Earth, she will let you know. You know, she needs to recuperate. You know, we have a winter here, which is more calm. You know, for Mother Nature. You know, you give her a chance to heal a bit. You know, so I think that. Or science people may have something wrong, you know, in their way of thinking or going about it, you know. So just my little 2 cents about it, you know.
Yeah.
I think Mother Earth knows better than us what to do.
Well, I believe I heard it on the movie Bridgewalkers that Greg introduced me to, and the native gentleman, I don't remember his name, from Greenland. was saying
Iceland.
Iceland.
Yeah.
Okay, Iceland was, if I recall right, he was saying that the prophecy was that the ice would melt when the hearts opened up, or and or as I thought about it too, as the hearts open and return to love, that motions crack, right? Like ice melts the water, which is emotion in the native side, and things flow. So is it, and as Abdul said about sunshine, exact words, the sunshine blessings, right? The when you're joyous, maybe you're spending, you're sharing more light. So is it the world is becoming more joyous, and so there's more light in the world? um, and then because there's more light in the world, people are still noticing that other people have still yet to incorporate spirit into their fold. Like for me, I was just noticing, like we talk about the sun and it's circular, and pretty much I'm open to finding where is the square in nature. Like everything is circular or oval, or I don't know of a square in nature. I think of in Chinese, they'd say the square was always the earth, the man-made limitations. And I think about everything in our world, and it's pretty much in that concept. We have teepees and yurts and huts and geodesic domes or things like that. They're all round. They're all circular. But yet in our world, where we tend to create in the Western world that I was raised in, it's all you're building angles, and with every square or rectangle, there's an angle, there's an edge, and those edges have come back to get us in one respect, right? To show us that we need to be more flowing and more circular, like the sun.
I think there's a deeper truth that's not being told in the process, because there was a time when the earth and the moon was one rock, and the earth separated from the moon. And in order to save its own life, because of the way the sun hit it, it started to spin. It had to spin in order to not burn up. And the moon, the position that the moon takes to reflect the light of the sun is, it's like this mathematical calculation that helps the water on this planet to also help keep the life on the earth vibrant, thriving. And so when they talk about the weather, they're not really giving a full, and I'm talking about the experts, they're not really giving a full picture, introducing a full picture into the human mind so they can understand what's really going on and how it continues. If the earth stops spinning, it's going to burn up like a piece of paper thrown into a fire. It's going to just that quick. And so the dynamic that's taking place from second to second of the rays of the sun pointing at the earth, causing it to spin. So it spins. And so the water that's trapped within the mileage, a certain mileage, between the earth and the sun is what keeps it alive. And so in our mind, the consciousness, because it's always going to be the invisible thing that's going to be more powerful in our experience, the things we cannot see. And so our thoughts to really understand, okay, the bigger picture. So when I decide to pause the rain, I'm pausing it knowing that the other parts of my creation on this planet needs it. But there's always a tolerance. There's an allowance for time. So here in Costa Rica, the dynamic is, okay, we're going to receive rain for 6 months because it gets to December and it just stops, right? But there are plants that hold the water for 6 months to keep it green, keep it vibrant and start producing its fruit. And so from here, you can watch this dynamic take place. When the rain comes, you see the abundance and more, how much more how much more nature is produced. There's more green, there's the flowers, they come, and you see it. And it's not as if it was in drought, but it demonstrates that it could do without, as we do. Because, we as our own human experience, which is very much fundamental replica of nature, is that we pause our eating, we pause our drinking, we pause our releasing of waste, and so because it's all part of this dance, part of the process. And so when we become aware of, to say, we get to the heart of the matter, the heart, what's really going on, because it's really the heart in our body. The heart holds the memory for everything that's going on. And so if we allow that, our awareness to expand and see that we're actually in a creation of our own, then it's easier for us to just play. It's really about playing. We gotta play with this. Where we allow ourselves to take this thing so serious at times that we don't see that we're in our own creation, experiencing ourselves as an experience for one, being an experience to others, experiencing experiences of our creation, and doing a dance all in between it. And so whether or not this, this conversation about climate is as if this earth don't know how to take care of itself. I watch, you watch a tree take care of itself, man. It don't need nobody to do nothing. It don't need no trimming. It's amazing. You can just watch, pick your nature thing and just watch it, let it be. And it will show you how to survive. And so the agendas that we find ourselves, because it's really a distraction from us looking at who we are, remembering that we are the ones that are in control, to say it one way or the other. And it's really not about nothing here lasts forever. We see this every day, that it is about a coming and a going. And so the key is really for you to reach a point of happiness, right? Where you're just in a state of joy with everything that happens, no matter what, And so, that decision to appreciate, I am in awe. I love creation. I love to see, the birds, and they come with their different colors, and, they just kind of offer us things to show. Okay, how did they get that? Did they go to a tattoo shop, and have to do that, and no, there's something on that we have done, our mindset has done, that we need to reclaim. We need to reclaim, remember that this is of our own, because it only serves us. It really serves the human population, that on this earth, and uh, it can end any day when the people that really decide that they're not in control. But there are anchors in this earth, human anchors, that allow us to continue to have an experience that is tolerable, that is adorable, that is pleasing to our souls at times. And so, the objective is not to judge anything as being uh, horrible, to use the word horrible. No, it's just what it is. It's just what it is. And so the peace that we end up receiving or experiencing and becoming an experience of comes from that, from recognizing, you know, everything for what it is, and then our continuance. Okay, it doesn't really matter because it's just a moment in time. And so whatever we need, it's never far from us, because again, you can only do you. Only do you. You can't do, as a healer, I've touched a lot of people. As a teacher, I've guided a lot of people, but their own destiny plays out in a way that I would have never imagined. And thank goodness I am aware that my service was just to deliver the message, to activate that. What happens after that is what happens. And the traditional sense, there's situations where, when I first started being used by my higher self, there was a part of me that thinking that, I had a preference for what the outcome would be. I thought that I was being guided to direct, to help a couple, to stay together. And so you go and you share what Spirit has given you, and then you find out that they thank you for helping them to see what was necessary so they can separate and go and blossom in another way. And so, it's just, everything has its own ebb and flow. And I think for the human being that has the ability to think himself away from himself, that's always going to be his challenge. We think ourselves away from ourselves, and the technology that we create, it's, that is created. It's just a continuance of that. It's more than our youth, the younger versions of ourselves, they're going to see this world a whole lot different, and they're going to, with the absence of this love that we have for the natural thing, because they don't know nothing about it, because they're so busy looking in their hand all the time. They don't know how to socialize. If you bump into they don't even know how to say, "Oh, I'm sorry. How you doing?" And, it's very limited, the communication you're going to get from a teenager, and adolescent, And so we can look at where's that taken at, where's that, what the world's going to look like, as after that, and really not. It's just going to be the reality, because cause and effect. Because as I started to wake up to the thing, and I started looking back. And why didn't my parents have this awareness? Why didn't they see this? And it's like really interesting. When you ask this question, you can be appreciative of how awake you are. But then you just look over your shoulder, back and say, well, why your parents didn't get this knowledge? Because there's nothing new on this planet. It was here. But it's all about the focus. The things that take you away from yourself. And so the cycle that allow us to step into this little process of waking up, stopping, appreciating, and nurturing things. It's we still have to find out what is it for.
I find a lot of that. I'll just be brief, Frederick, and then you can have the floor. Sorry. It's asking the right questions. You know what I mean? Like, I think I used to do some counseling before, and people come up to me and they'd ask me something, and I'd say, no, go away, wrong question. You got to come back with the right question, and then I can answer that. And it's the same, I think, because our parents questioned very little and just kind of trusted a lot in whatever they trusted in, you know what I mean? Like the man-made institutions and whatever you want to call it, the matrix or whatever else like that. But it's about asking the right questions, and because that's how you get the right answers. You can ask, there's a million questions you can ask and get the answers to, and they're not really helping you. You're still treading water. You're not getting anywhere. You're not doing anything, like it's like next shiny thing, and then move on. And then there's always one more shiny thing, and none of those, most likely most of those aren't really moving you forward when they're the shiny things that you're always looking at. They're all just the distractions and stuff like that. So that's all I want to say. Go ahead.
I like that, Greg. It's like, how can I get any better than this? And then you allow the universe to answer, because I agree with what you're saying. It is about asking the right questions, and then experiencing the universe's answer. But what I was thinking about when Abdul was speaking, I've spent a lot of years, trying to develop my relationship to my higher self, and step into my higher self, or allow my higher self to step into me, or whichever way you want to look at it. And I've been blessed to have a few really special experiences. And I remember one particular time where I was in this I was my higher self. I was this divine being, fully connected to all there is, the entire universe. I could feel everything, the entire, and the feeling was everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. It was a knowing. It was a knowing that everything is exactly as it is supposed to be. And I think if we can, remind ourselves that, and I think it's a beautiful message to share, just everything is perfectly as it is supposed to be. Everything is orchestrated, everything is divine, everything is as it is supposed to be. Then it allows us to step back and just be, like you were saying, Abdul, just to be you. Just no need to try to control nothing, no need to just be you, man. And because everything is perfect, everything is as it's supposed to be. And another piece I wanted to add was I had this epiphany the other day. I was looking out my window, and it was as if I saw my yard for the first time. I was like, oh my God, this place is beautiful. And it was like somehow, some way, I shifted something inside myself without even recognizing it. And now I was seeing a very familiar sight to me for the very first time, because I was different. I'd shifted something inside of me, and now a new layer was revealed to me. And that instantly gave me the awareness of like, oh, how many other layers are there that I can't see yet, and I can't wait to unravel inside of me, because it's all happening right here, right now, all of it, and we just have to allow ourselves to open up and receive the beauty that is this world and this life. And that's all I had to say.
I totally concur with you, Frederick. I feel like I look out every, very frequently, I won't say every single day, that it seems like something's popping that I never saw or noticed before. And I just like the people listening to know that I'm pretty sure that all 5 of us here are, have a lot of trees around us, right? Is that correct? Yes. Yes. So we are not in downtown Singapore. We're not in the top of the New York City penthouse. We are very much, in amongst the trees and nature. So that also could be one of the reasons our perspectives might sound a little different than maybe some of the perspectives that you're having. And I know for me, when I was living in the city, I thought only rednecks lived in the country. and I literally was that conditioned person. I wasn't on like this because we didn't have that, but that a whole idea of the rat on the wheel. And this is life. You go to work, you do the job over and over again, you get paid, you buy things, you go, you do, and it's never enough. And I was saying to my friend yesterday, I said, what I've come to realize is the work with the land never ends. And I remember a Texas rancher saying, fence building never stops. Right. And I think that's what I've come to realize within myself, this sense of peace and joy about doing things outside and moving things, or cutting wood, or moving trees, or cutting trees, or cleaning up the yard, or gardening, or just all these aspects, swimming in the river, they're never all going to be perfect. They're never all going to get done in a day. It's not like the checklist, done, end of story, because everything's renewing. Everything's shifting and changing. The amount of butterflies that I'm seeing. I saw the tiniest little monarch butterfly. It must have been like the size of my thumbnail. Like little things like this that sheer joy of, like, as a child would, like, chase the butterfly, catch the butterfly, follow the bubble in the air, look at the yellow flower, see how mathematically everything is so sacred geometry, right? Like in nature, it's just perfect. And yet I think that's the beauty of learning to be present to perfection and the awe of it, instead of going, well, now how do I fix that? How can I make nature better when there's already a divine order in every aspect that's happening? Like just the fact that we can have different climates, different sensations. Like I remember the first time I was in Costa Rica during rainy season, and I was like, after a week, I was like, and this just goes on for months. It's like, for months. Okay. Like, until we have experiences, we can learn and we can listen to what other people are saying, but it somehow, for me anyways, it doesn't really hit home. It doesn't really get to my heart. It doesn't really make me go, like the gigantic bear that I saw galloping across the road that looked like a horse today. Like, it was like, whoa, okay. There's always something. And I think that's what I really want people to get when they listen to us, is that we're open to experiencing life and trusting the process of how it is, navigating the relationships, the ups and the downs, the change in the weather. It's all part of the experience. And it's really okay however we're dealing with it, because having grace with ourselves is a real blessing.
I noticed a long time ago that when I live in the city, I've done both, and I've gone back and forth several times in my life. But when I live in the city, I have to close off a little bit because there's just so much stimuli coming at me, and a lot of it artificial, and that it's just a different beat and a different lifestyle. And I've chosen for myself, it's a personal choice to want to expand my awareness and grow my consciousness, and just being in living in nature allows for that so much easier, I think, than living in the city. My first real experience with that was going from Montreal and moving to northern Manitoba, and like a fly in dirt strip, and 1,000 people in the middle of nowhere, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles, nothing, bush. And living with I married a native woman from up there, and my father-in-law had, he barely ever went to the city. He grew up as a trapper and a fisherman in this wilderness, and I would go out onto the land with him, and he would spot or sense animals and things that he would point them out to me, and he was just pointing into nothing for me. I had no awareness whatsoever. Just the level of awareness that he had was astonishing to me. And that was my first glimpse of, oh, okay, living in nature allows you to expand your awareness. And yeah, I just choose to live my life that way because it's a choice. Yeah.
Just listening to everyone talking, and that I was just thinking that, like looking back through my life, everywhere that I've lived, I mean, I'm not right out in the country. I live on the edge of suburbia, is how I refer it. But just my mind trip back through my life, and everywhere that I've lived has always been right on the edge of land, where it's always been lots of trees and lots of bushes, and I've never lived in a city or where it's been very congested. I don't think I could ever do that, because even just driving in those areas, I can feel the difference in the energy in myself. But I remember, similar to what Frederick was saying, like I had this experience a few years ago where, like, my awareness became really, really fine-tuned and very crystal clear of everything around me, and the trees. I could literally see them vibrating. The leaves and the branches and it was the most phenomenal experience. It was just beautiful. I words don't explain it enough. Feel like I could feel the feeling of the plants and nature, how they feel in their connection to the of earth and vibration, and it was just this lovely experience. I've sort of stepped out of that intensity of the experience, but I really enjoy those experiences, because when they're really what's the word I'm thinking of? When they're really highlighting that and really focused on that, I can feel the difference between when we're focusing away from what's natural, we get caught up in all of this other stuff and the day-to-day living, and I love those lessons that come where they're so intense that you cannot forget them. You know, they're so profound, or they hit you in such a way that you just go, I'll never forget that. They're not a subtle thing, and they're just fantastic. And I love them. I just go, oh, and they sit in my heart all the time, and it's the only way to remember them. So yeah.
I just want to reflect back for myself when the first time I heard everything is as it should be, and I went, oh, that's horse shit. Look at all this stuff that's wrong. I had my list, right? You know, this needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed. Someone's got to fix that. You know, like I got to fix that. Someone should fix that. Like I had my list, and it's just amazing to be able to sit here and have that knowing that it is as it should be. And I do catch myself slipping back to, you know, I think part of it is it's okay to look at what's not in balance, but just not. It's like the old saying, we have two wolves to feed. What do you feed? You know, and that's it. So we can look at the list of things that aren't in balance, and if we get sucked into that, then for sure there's lots wrong in the world, and we'll have lots of justification for saying that. But when we feed the other wolf, then we start realizing that there's balance, and things are, you know, everyone has whatever it takes for us to get to the point of understanding how we are absolutely a part of everything going on. We will experience both sides of that to guide us to that point regardless. And so everyone's having that experience, you know, like you can call it a climate emergency, and I'll call it a spiritual emergency. You know, you can identify it all the way down the line. And yeah, the earth is going to go through some changes because things I think have been put in motion, and that's all fine. I really love and respect and appreciate that, whatever that ends up having to be. I'm good with it. It's, I never, like, say, like 15 years ago, I would have never thought I would say that, but I do believe it's true. It's true. So go ahead.
Sorry, what, could you repeat it again? What you didn't think you'd ever say, but you did now?
That everything is as it should be. And I used to just view things as like, you know, I was pretty black and white, you know, like right and wrong and a lot of things like that. And there's, for me, it's all just gray area now. And it's not for me to decide right or wrong. It's just for me to just be me and love where I'm at, love what's around me. And because that I think that is actually me being me, and all the other stuff is the judgment that I thought I should have been, that I'm not. So, you know, it's like the same math equation of a smile takes whatever, I think about like 10 or 15 muscles, and a frown takes about 30 muscles. It's basically the same sort of math. It's much easier just going with flow than it is resisting. And when I was stuck in that resistance and the judgment of right and wrong and should do this and shouldn't do that and all that sort of stuff, it's a lot of work. It takes up a lot of energy. It takes up, you know, most of your time. So I can see now that it's easy to be stuck there. And that's what I'm saying. I didn't think I was going to ever say that when I was younger, even though like I had lots of awareness of spirit and all kinds of stuff was moving me, but I still had my attachments to my parents, my growing up, my teachers, their effects on me and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not saying I'm even beyond that now. I'm not saying that at all. You know, I'm sure that I'll have moments of stuff that just float by, and I can either choose to hang on to it and wrestle with it and feed an angry wolf, or I can just not feed it and just be like meditation. And when it comes up, I'll just watch it kind of go by without wrestling with it. So
I just want to say that the smile and the frown muscle. I gave my father a poster when I was like 7 that said exactly that. It takes less muscles, or it takes more muscles to frown, or more energy to frown than to smile. Try smiling, Dad.
Did he laugh?
No. Maybe 80, no, but yeah, I think that's I feel like that, as you say about the right or the wrong or the duality, like that's something that we're also transcending, that there is just this yin and yang, one or the other, the feminine and the masculine, you know, that we're realizing that there's a whole. And in the whole, like a hologram, every one of us is that piece of the whole. So the whole never goes away. So do you really want to be angry or upset at somebody else for doing something when they're part of you, really? Like, I said many years ago that it's, again, I was refreshed when I saw it on my Facebook page, that I think of the planet as one big body, right? And in a sense, the countries are like organs. And in the organs, all the people are like cells, and so we want the heart to operate as the heart and the knee to be the knee and the hair to operate as the hair. We don't want to tell the hair to be like the knee. We don't say, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong, asshole. You're not supposed to be letting go of that stuff. You're supposed to be loving and kind. No, like you want to let go of that stuff if you're the asshole. So I think that that's the grace and if you want to call it the word humanity, the love is recognizing we're all in this together.
And I thank you, Thunder, because when you said we have to ask the right question, while I'm listening to you, then I was able to see that this, like, just came across my screen that, what we were talking about, because the question of, okay, why didn't our parents get it? And for them, it was the television. That, because the television came into their lives and became the controller, the distraction. And so if they were going out into the world, they would come back, first thing they do is turn on the television. And so that was what was the controller. And now, the only thing now, because the consciousness has expanded, it goes back to what you said lastly, is about me being me. And you have to be enough of the me, the true me, that allows you to survive what me is doing to me. Understand? Because there is beyond this, because we came about, we manifested ourselves in the planet with, probably on the borderline of that, of their absorption, or they're being so distracted. And if you understand the societies, you see what our governments do. As a collective, they withhold information for 40 or 50 years. They keep it from generations for a purpose. So they don't know what's really going on, and they program. And so we're at a point now where it's compounded, and we that have this sense of awareness, we really have to embrace our practices, embrace our practices that allow us to see the light, to be enlightened, so that we can take it into the next era, so that there's enough of it to be, fed upon. So, if we leave, they don't have to get the whole loaf of bread, but we have to be enough, enough of the slice that they know it existed. Because if you think about what we got, when the spiritual stuff started coming in, the sources of it, it came from something that was around before. And, we either got a book or there was a group that was still surviving that was sharing this information. And we got a piece of this and we got a little bit of that opened doors. And so now, we have this consciousness that in reality is self-sustaining, but our humanness, we have to, because what we wanted to honor, because it's really not about it there being the right or wrong. No, it's about the ebb and flow. It's the valley. There's always going to be this point where you're really deep in it, and you're going to come out of it, and you're going to get to the top, and your perspective is going to change. And so, if we're the wolf climbing up, we have to be enough appetite. And so, our awareness of what's really going on around us, what's being affected by this thing. So if now we still have television, now we have this internet, more information flooding the consciousness. What is it that we, because what we got, the truth does not change. The light of God does not fail. And so if we want it to sustain itself, we have to continue in our practice. We have to renew it every day within our mind, trusting that the value that it has. So we have to see our own value, in the process. One way or the other, like you said, it doesn't matter one way or the other, because everybody that has a body comes here the same way and leaves here the same way. It's just going to be about the experience that they have. And so do we want a lot of people on the planet feeling that the world is going to come to an end, or that they don't have any hope? Or, what's the purpose of our enlightenment? Our enlightenment is to express happy. The reality of what we are. Just for the sake of happy. Because if we don't really see, appreciate its value, hey, what's not appreciated dissipates, plain and simple.
If I wanted to have people that are listening to this have like a message, and I want to go back to the everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. And if you're able to just play along, it's just a game. Just imagine that everything is as it's supposed to be. Don't worry about all the programming, all the stuff your head's been filled with, and your parents filled you up with, and generation upon generation and upon generation of programming. It's all inside there. Don't worry about any of that. Just imagine, play a game, right? Imagine everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. It's all orchestrated and it's all perfect. It's just happening on such a huge macro level that we don't have the perception to see it we're looking at things too closely, and so we're seeing all the issues and the problems. But on a bigger, huge macro perspective, it's all orchestrated. It's all divinely orchestrated and in harmony and perfect. And there's nothing to change. And so if you're still playing along and you can kind of just feel that like everything's perfect, then it really becomes of like, oh, well then who am I in this? And what do I want to do with my life? Really, there's nothing to fix. There's nothing to do except, like Abdul say, play, Play the happiness card, play the joy card, play the love card. Know what would make you happy, what would make you joyful. Know what do you and the other piece is, as you're playing along with this game of everything is perfect, the other piece is all of the answers are inside of you. There's nothing out there to answer the questions of who am I and what do I want. The answers are all in here. So as you're talking about your practices, they need to be internal practices of remembering ourselves. Who am I? Who am I? And what do I want in this life? Those are good questions.
And a good answer is the example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think what you said, Frederick, is absolutely true for me about it's. This might sound kind of weird, but I don't think I've really learned anything this lifetime. What I experienced is a remembering that I already am, that I already knew, and I just somehow forgot. And that, and I was, you could get into playing the victim card about, TV and cell phone and all those, like I'm the victim of that. That's why I didn't learn, right? And that's all nonsense, because wherever you are, with or without gadgets or whatever distractions, you are always there 100% of the time. So the part of me has always been about remembering. Like it's like I've had billions of deja vu moments always. I'll meet somebody for the first time and I'll look at them and go, I've had this conversation with you before. And I like mind-boggling that I even, can say that, but it happens so many times. Like I could tell you story after story of all kinds of weird stuff. And it's like, I have in this lifetime, I could say, honestly, I never met that person yet. I know them, and I know them well. And, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of what can be expressed around that whole thing. But it's key. It's just remembering, and I've been saying this, Jack, you guys have heard it before. I think it's actually we're way closer to the truth always than we are closer to the lies. We're always closer to the truth than we are to the illusion. And it's just when we start remembering parts of the truth of who we are, the other stuff, it'll challenge you, because like we've bought into it for so long, it's challenging in little spots here and there. But at the end of the day, it's always been there, and we've never been separated. We're never, like, I've had a guy before was asking me, like, how do you get ready to do your stuff? I said, I just take one breath. That's it. That's my, but a part of me wanted to give him a big song and dance about standing on one foot facing east, picking my nose or whatever, right? But, and I would just do that because I like clowning around a lot. But like, it's 100% present all the time. And it's only when I allow my focus to go chase the shiny thing away, that leads me away from it. So it's always 100% me that leads me away from it, but wherever I'm led to, when I catch myself, kind of usually laugh and go, oh, well, that took me off the beaten track a little bit. And I'll laugh because I'm not judging myself harshly. I'm just noticing where I'm at. And it's like, oh, well, I've been in a better spot. So let's go find it, and I'll go find the better spot, and I'll find some humor in it. And I do laugh at myself often. But it's always just coming home. It's just always coming home, being home, and absolutely love being home.
I find that too. Sorry, Jacqueline. I was just thinking the same thing. When I find myself getting off track, I'll catch myself in the moment and go, oh, that was a bit judgmental, or this was, and I'll I always have a bit of a chuckle at myself and kind of go like, wow, let's not do that again, hey? So yeah, it's much more ease and grace this time now than it is flogging myself for doing something wrong or that I perceived that I was doing wrong. So yeah.
Well, I think for me, one of the sort of, if you want to call it the hypnosis of the situation that we've leaned into, a lot of us that now we're coming out of, knowing that it's always about here. It's the idea that we had to learn it. We had to then unlearn it, or we had to achieve it, or we had to do it. And this paradigm was set up through education that said, there's something to achieve, there's something to get to. And then it was like, okay, well, since that's not working for you and you're really the victim of this and that, then we got to undo all that, what you learned way back then, and then you can be present. And then we've made a whole industry out of that, right? Like, how to come back to your personal child, right? Like inner child, we'll heal that, we'll love it, and then you'll be free. And so now we've made an economic business out of that. And I was thinking is, how do we have community, right? How do we open up and have community with other people to create that space of, you're welcome to come, but you're perfect the way you are, and you'll be perfect in the next moment. And it's all okay, whatever you're experiencing. It's noticing what you're noticing, right? Taking personal responsibility of, oh, I did get a little triggered there. Like, how do you actually say, there's nothing really you need to learn, but come join us, because be more of us, be this new space when everybody's so used to, I need to take that program before I can break free and become home again.
The quick answer to your question is, it's up to them to ask the right question. If they're asking the right question, they're happy to sit in and listen all day long and ask their questions and do whatever. But if they're not asking the question yet, then we sound like we're just full of gibberish to them. So it's where we are, right? Like, and that's fine. Like, I had someone ask me the other day about, how do I deal with people that are not where I'm at? Not that I'm better than anyone else like that. And I say, like, wherever they're standing, I try to stand beside them and have a conversation that's close enough to where they are that they'll actually be able to hear something that I might have to say. I don't always stand right where I'm at, because they got like, a couple more questions to get to understand what I'm saying. And I always just try to stand right where they are and have a conversation, and then if they ask some of the right questions in that conversation, then I'll expand a little bit more and like that. So like, I want it to be as gentle a process as possible.
Well said.
Go, Frederick, you're right.
No, I just wanted to say that's well said. That's great.
I was thinking of what you were saying, Greg. From my perspective, I was thinking, can I add that it's okay even if you don't get what someone's saying? From my experience in the past, it was always, if I didn't grasp something, there was something wrong. I should know this. I should have known this by now. What am I doing wrong? There was always a fault. And it's now, like, we have conversations even now, the ones that we've had in the past, where I've gone away from from them and gone, didn't get that at all. Didn't click. Didn't have my moment. Didn't have an aha. And it's taken some time. And sometimes it's just like, no, it's not even hit me at all, and it's okay. It will happen when it happens. When you, for me now, my perspective is when I'm open to receive, when I've let go of whatever thing that there is may still be residing in me that I'm not even aware of. When it's let go, it's gone, and I can hear what you're saying. I can understand what you're saying. It resonates. So
I'll try harder to say stuff that you won't get.
all right then. Thank you, sir.
I think it's also, for me, it's noticing what I'm saying, right? And the questions I'm asking. So I had a situation yesterday. I think I was typing something, a response, and as I was typing, the phrase that was going to come out of my fingers, I was like, whoa, that phrase, it was like, I'm going to counterbalance, right? And I was like, counterbalance, right? Who am I that I think I need to counterbalance something? Everything is perfect, right? So I was noticing that although I'm saying everything is perfect in this conversation that we're doing now, and I think that's the ahas for people, is we say things like positive affirmations. We go, oh, it's perfect. But there could be something in our shadow and energetically, whatever that's still there, that is still kind of influencing us without our conscious awareness of. And then you become conscious of it, or it's showing in the light, like you turn the flashlight on in the dark and you go, whoa, look at that spider. And then I go, is that true for me? No, that's not true for me. So that's my question. Is that 100% true for me now? Does that even make sense to me now? No, I don't even know why I'm saying that. And then there was another thing that came out of me that was just like, big bad men can't be trusted. And I was like, whoa, that seems like that's like really old, but that's still just flowed out of my mouth, right? And I was like, well, that kind of makes sense, that if they're bad, they couldn't be trusted. But why would I think somewhere along the line that they could? Like if that was what I was thinking. So I feel being honest, as you always say, Greg, the more honest we are with ourselves about what we're actually spitting out there in the world, and is it true? And is that what you want to co-create? So are people actually spinning off the future of what they don't want to live into? And they keep talking about it and dramatizing it, like global warming, in that sense, climate crisis. Like, do you want to have a climate crisis? Like, well, how about we just make solutions? How about we just work together? How about we just find peace and harmony? How about we just do things differently? Starting here, and then within ourselves in a group, in community, and it expands. And then one day we realize, it really is more perfect than we thought it was, when it was always perfect.
I've brought it back to the forefront a few times today of this, everything is exactly as it's supposed to be and it's perfect, and have had this experience. But realistically, that's not my day to day. I've had these moments, these experiences where I've felt it, and I really try to live in that way, in that knowing all the time. But I catch myself, just like you just said, Jacqueline, all the time, catch myself trying to fix stuff and go, oh, what part of me now believes that I need to fix that person or that thing or that situation? If I need to try to change it or fix it, then it's not perfect. So there's a part of it I'm not accepting, or there's a part of myself I'm not accepting. So there's resistance. And what's that about? And so it's this constant, who am I? And I was thinking maybe the better question of, instead of asking who am I, is like, who am I right now? Who am I in this moment? And that gives you more leeway or flexibility of just being human, because it's like, I often think it's like life is this great cosmic hide and seek game where Creator created all of us and we forgot ourselves and we all went to hide. And now we're just trying to remember ourselves, Woo! I see you.
I'm still here. I'm in the box. You left me there.
Somebody I need to be found.
Well, and just to add what you're saying, Frederick, I think like I've done that most of my whole life, but I spent a lot of my life being really critical when I saw stuff wrong with me. Right. And it's in the last bunch of years that I can actually laugh. I can laugh and go look at it and like, whoa, whatever that was, and be kind to myself, which makes it so much easier for me having those discussions with myself. Like when I face myself in the mirror, I'm not looking at the guy that was just being so harsh to me. I like the guy in the mirror more when that guy's kind to me. And it's like a self-judgmental loop that you can turn into this, go from loathing to love in that. But it's the exact same treadmill. It's the exact same mechanism. You're just changing the gears to something that suits you, that suits us as human beings much better. So like, yeah, I did that for years, I think, thinking of, how harsh I could be on myself. And I thought that was being a good human being because I caught myself red-handed.
Flog yourself.
Yes. And I thought there was some sort of, almost a pat on the back for that, yeah, there was some sort of award for that at the end of the day. And then when I started realizing that I could actually look at it and find the joy that I actually have uncovered that other little grain of sand or the log in my eye, whatever, depends on the size of the situation, that I could laugh, that it made it actually a lot easier to learn from that, like so much easier. Like I can't even describe how much easier it got by not having that judgment of self like that. It changed it a lot for me anyways.
Isn't that the thing though, is that we tell ourselves that we're not enough. That's this whole industry, that we're not enough, that if we have to do all of these things, we have to do, if you do this, then you'll be better. If you do this, then you'll be better. If you do this, you'll be enough. And our whole, everything, it can feel like everything comes at you from all sides telling you that you are not enough, that you have to achieve all of these things first before you're good enough, before you're worthy, before you're acceptable, before you're whatever. And that's a heavy thing to carry around. And most of us are not even aware that we're doing it, or take it that it's normal to do that. If you do yoga every day, then you'll be enough because you'll stretch your body, you do this, and if you do this, and if you eat like this, and if you this rah 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 rah. So it's there's this never-ending list of things that you have to achieve because it comes out every day with something new that you have to do because this obviously didn't work, so now you need to try this, and you can get so sucked into all of this. And for me, the question is, does it bring me joy? Does it make me happy? I could go, I've tried yoga. Do I want to do it all the time? No. I used to go, well, I should be doing this. Why are you so resistant to doing this? Maybe my resistance was that I didn't really want to do it and I wasn't listening to what was giving me joy, and it was okay not to do the things that I thought that I had to do. So for me, my question is, does it make me happy? Does it bring me joy? Am I doing all of these wonderful things that are supposed to make me healthier and more spiritual and evolved and vibrationally connected? And it's like, well, that in itself is telling me that I'm it's an internal dialogue that tells me that I'm not good enough, that I'm not, when it's false. I am vibrationally wonderful. I'm God, for fuck's sake. Pardon my French, but who am I to think less of that? Who am I to decide that I am less than?
Could be a redneck God, just saying.
Oh God, yes. Does it matter? Does it bring me joy? Of course it does. Whatever.
Learning to love, absolutely. It's like a process that I saw somewhere that I had to discover. And love, it's very humble. It's very silent in its approach to our sustenance. And the practice of love, the practice of being kind, will give you an let's say reward you. Um, it's not always available for your consciousness to see, but there will always be moments where you will see that you're appreciated for being the example of that. And there are things along the way that you will have forgotten. Um, that you can only be reminded of through another soul. And when a soul, a stranger, as we call them, to just identify it as something, comes and says, "Oh, I see that in you," it's because you reminded them of something that they know about themselves. I had an experience last week, and I'll tell you real quick. I was working on a woman doing a healing session. First time, never met her before. She comes, and I don't talk at all during the session because I'm listening to her soul. And so at some point during the session, she says, "Abdul," she says my name, "Abdul, is your session tantric?" And I teach Tantra yoga. The yoga I teach is tantric. And my life is tantric. Tantric means it's when you're mindful of you being united with all life. Union, being in union with your spirit, with your soul, and allowing yourself to be an example of that, and always seeking to experience that. Well, when she said that, the moment, because first of all, I'm not, I'm in heaven. Heaven is a state of presence, right? So I'm just there. I'm so deep in her that I don't, when she said my name, Abdul, it startled me out of the presence, because she asked a question. So the question, when someone asks you a question, you gotta go somewhere to find the answer, right? You gotta go to the place, that moment when you realize that information and you met. And so when she said that, it reminded me of my tantric lifestyle. I hadn't thought about it, I just did a course, about a month ago, and yes, I mentioned it, but I'm not always totally conscious that my expression is that. And so her expressing it, because she had an awareness of that experience, because perhaps she's living that way herself, she recognized it. And for that, so I say, our example is the greatest thing that we can really offer to another energetically. What others, other souls will see in us will help to strengthen it in themselves. And so being courageous enough to be loving, to ourselves, enough, because we have to, first, continue to do the things that allow us to maintain this level of awareness, and then be an example of that for other people. And the reward, like I said, when she mentioned it, I was like, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah, it is tantric. because of the definition. In order for me to help her, reason of her coming for the healing, I had to be in union with her soul, to be totally aware of what she needed. And that's really the result of, when honoring a commitment. So when someone comes into your space, that's a commitment. It's a contract. And so when we learn to realize that, so somebody has to realize it's a contract, otherwise it becomes, a happenstance, and the value of it really is lost or left for another moment to be realized. And so I just mention it again. So it's like this question of today, like it's about being, who am I? Who am I being? And that once you answer that question for yourself, then that's what you're gifting.
And some people listening may have discovered other questions in this conversation that they're asking themselves, and whatever questions are coming up for them is the right question in the right time, because it is all about you. And we're glad you're here, and we're glad we could reflect this all back to you, and we'll be here next week again. Come join the conversation. Thanks, everybody.